Oof, grab your coffee and let's hang out. We have a lot of things to talk about. Hey crew, I'm Lexi. Very happy to have you here, guys. I hope I can bring you some encouragement, some hope and inspiration during these pretty crazy transitional times that we are going through at the moment. I'm going to talk today about the second Mercury retrograde of this new, brave and crazy decade. This is going to be the Mercury retrograde movement from the sign of Cancer till the sign of Gemini that begins on the 18th of June and will end on the 12th of July. There are a number of other astrological checkpoints that are going to take place during this retrograde. First of all, it's really important to keep in mind that Mercury is at the moment in the sign of Cancer. It is not in the best placement possible because Mercury at the moment is in the sign that is governed by the moon. Cancer is a highly emotional, highly intuitive, artistic, gorgeously beautiful, family-oriented, nurturing energy. However, when Mercury is there, Mercury, the planet of the mind, of communication, of fast energy exchange, of shifting things around and multitasking, you can imagine the energies don't blend very well. It's a lot about ups and downs in terms of emotions. So we might go through emotional roller coaster. One moment we feel very confident and very sure of our analytical and logical capacities. We speak very clearly, we express ourselves wonderfully, and then the next moment we're down in the dumps because all of a sudden something from the past came back into our lives and it made us doubt ourselves, our self-worth, what are we doing with our lives, so on and so forth. So the moon and Mercury going at each other in a very tense way, and this affects us obviously here in our everyday today lives because the Mercury rules our minds and the moon rules our unconscious elements. So it's a lot about bringing a lot of unconscious, shadowy aspects from within our own psyche to the surface, out in the open, for everyone to see, for us to air them out. And this process, you can imagine, is making us feel a little bit guilty, a little bit ashamed, very tired and sleepy, not at all at our glamorous, most confident selves, right? So the energy is a little bit tricky to say the least, okay? But just keep in mind that this is only a transit, which means it is temporary, and this thankfully means it has an expiration date, okay? So we just have to grin and bear it. If you are struggling with this energy, just know that it is going to float away. However, during this Mercury retrograde period, we are going to have some really interesting things happening. When Mercury enters this retrograde movement, or when it begins its retrograde movement, because it doesn't practically enter a room like, hi, hello, I am here to disturb you. It's more like, okay, I'm backtracking, I'm pulling back, you know, that's kind of the energy that we're having now. And I have my notes here, by the way. All of the dates I am mentioning in this video are fact-checked on astrodienst.com. This is the resource that I trust the most and that I am using to give you these details, okay? And you can check it yourself as well. You can double check the dates that I'm saying in this video by accessing Astrodienst Ephemeris for 2020. So again, one important part of all this Gemini and Saturn in Aquarius energy in the sky at the moment is to check your facts. So, okay, I got your back. This begins from tomorrow. And right off the bat, we can see that it's already the energy is preparing for an outpouring of emotions. Why am I saying this? Because very soon the moon is going to enter Gemini, but it will be at its darkest point. That means that the moon is almost disappearing from the sky. Its energy is completely retreated. It's kind of retracted into itself. We don't get to see her brightening up the sky anymore because it's preparing to become new. So the retrograde begins on the 18th of June, and then on the 21st of June, we are having a new moon solar eclipse in Cancer. So just a couple of days as the retrograde begins, we are having a consciousness upheaval. We are having an emotional kind of detonation. So you guys have to be very careful with this energy. This is also amplified by the fact that Venus at the moment is transiting through the sign of Gemini, and it is retrograde. So this is a lot about duality. This is a lot about Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, our emotional selves and our rational selves coming into a conflict, into a situation of tension, butting heads a little bit. The past pulling on our present and kind of messing a little bit with our capacity to imagine the future. So don't worry, if you feel that at the moment things are progressing one step forward, two steps backwards, just keep in mind that this is the current Mercury retrograde in Cancer energy that has been in its shadow for the last 2 weeks. So it's kind of like the energy was trying to prepare us for the coup de foudre that is going to be the new moon solar eclipse on the 21st of June. Don't be afraid. This basically means on a positive scale that when we have a solar eclipse, but we also have a new moon, this means that the energies of the sun and the moon are fertilizing each other's in heaven. So how this translates in our everyday, day-to-day environment or our consciousness, this basically means that a lot of issues that have to do with the wounded mother, with the divine feminine archetype, with the earth, right? Gaia, the Gaia principle. All of these issues are bubbling up to the surface. So we see in the news at the moment an increase in cases of domestic violence, an increase in cases where we see how women of all ages have been used, abused, torn to the side, discarded, and hurt in some way. Now, these issues are rising up to the surface with this new moon solar eclipse to help us plant new seeds as to how can we integrate and empower women? How can we actually help support the world at the moment in both its masculine and feminine principles? Generally, this is going to be a massive shift towards the empowered divine feminine rising up more and more to the surface. So we do see at the moment that a lot of traditional patriarchal institutions are backlashing at this by instating some really crazy, stupid laws that are prohibiting the variations of gender identity, are prohibiting women from accessing some of the privileges that they had in the past. And in general, we see that there is a more of a concentrated masculine energy in society at the moment. But fear not, this is only because Venus has been dormant for the last month. The good news is that 4 days after this new moon solar eclipse in Cancer, Venus will rise triumphant again, because on the 25th of June, she is emerging from her slumber, almost like a bear coming out of the cave going like, what has been happening, and sees the whole house has been torn to shreds by Goldilocks, you know. So this is kind of the energy that we're having in the realm of the divine feminines. If you are a woman and have been feeling very sleepy, or if you're a man and are very in touch with your anima, if you've been feeling very sleepy, very tired, very up and down, don't worry. On the 25th of June, this energy is going to come back into you and you're going to feel re-energized, replenished, and you will have like a new spark in terms of your capacity to earn money, your capacity to create beauty, and your capacity to relate to others and to generally just feel the love. I have really been struggling with feeling the love. I know you guys initially just were very drawn to my channel because of the love series I created. I had so much fun doing this, but this was when Venus was in my own sign of Pisces. So this happened in February. That was the massive boost of energy that I got. But to be honest, at the moment as Venus was retrograde, because I am ruled by Libra, this is my ascendant, and perhaps this is some of the reality for a lot of you out there, I have been feeling like, what's the point? I haven't really been feeling the love, unfortunately, and I had to put in a lot of work every day, you know, a lot of spiritual work, a lot of praying, a lot of exercising, just to push myself to feel confident, to feel nurturing, to feel feminine, because the energy has been so depleted due to this retrograde movement. However, a lot of really beautiful realizations came out of this retrograde. So some of the things I would like you to reflect upon as well during this period, to just give you some energy, some hope, and some optimism are, have you been learning something new? Learning, writing about your thoughts. This is unbelievably healing and helping in this period. So basically tapping into the higher energy of Gemini, which is about doing two things at the same time. It's all about shifting energy with the Gemini, right? So don't stagnate. Don't linger into one place for too long, because the energy is going to drain you, okay? It's all about flexibility, moving from one project to the other, talking to one person and then moving to the other if the conversation is frustrating or has stagnated. Allowing others' opinions not to affect you. Don't take anything personally. Just go like, we agree to disagree. Moving on to your next point, you know? So it's really, really important to keep an open mind, to be tolerant, to be an independent thinker, to be rebellious in your thinking as well. Like if you have an outrageous idea, go with it, you know, get the excitement, get that Mercurian excitement and just flow with it. If things are kind of stagnating, then multitask, you know, or shift your attention to another place. If you have reached a wall of your limitations and you don't know how to solve a problem, educate yourself. This is the higher vibration of Gemini. Learn something new and then communicate this to other people in a fun, silly, and tolerant way. This is the best way in which we can all make use of this beautiful Gemini energy that is heavily supported at the moment by Grandpa Saturn, okay? Saturn is about long-term committed results. So all you have to do during this period to have success is to commit to an idea, commit to a plan of action, and then if things don't actually go in a linear way, step by step, and very like you see the growth happening bit by bit, then don't freak out. All you need to do is be a bit more flexible, move between segments, move with the energy, go with the flow, okay? So this is what's happening at the moment with all this, you know, Mercury was in Gemini, now the Venus retrograde was in Gemini. Mercury during this retrograde period is going to go back to Gemini. So as I said at the beginning, we are having a lot of emotions, a lot of past pain, a lot of things that we might not have emotionally processed in the past coming up to the surface for us to figure out, do we want to keep them in our lives or do we want to discard them? Exes might return. You need to be very careful. Do you want that person back in your life? Generally, when there is a Venus retrograde or a Mercury retrograde, the best thing you can do is retreat. Just do as little as possible, okay? This is not a period to push yourself. This is not a period to push others, okay? All you can do is be patient, be wise, and pull back your energy. Rest. This is so, so important. Although it might feel quite frustrating because we are seeing that at the moment a lot of crazy things are happening in the world, and one part of us wants to go out there and fight the system, and then another part of us is under the influence of all of these retrogrades and is like, what's the point, right? It's really important to mention that at the moment, we will not only have for this week Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde beginning its movement, but we also have Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Uranus retrograde at the same time. Yes, so the sky is kind of like, you know, pulling everything backwards. So it's not a fun time. It feels as if whatever you were proceeding with very happily at the beginning of the year was not only stopped by the epidemic and the global financial restoration and political kind of craziness that is happening at the moment in the world, but also energetically, you might feel like, I don't feel like I have the energy to pour myself into my own existence anymore. Don't be afraid. This sticky kind of weird energy is just here to help us understand what is it that we really need to change in our lives, okay? So deeply reflect on that, and if you are feeling a lot of really weird conflicting feelings, either rest or write about your feelings, intellectualize them, rationalize them. Again, this is the higher vibration of Saturn and Gemini. If you work with this air energy, then it works for you as well, rather than block you. At the same time, please don't try to take everything so seriously. Understand that racism, gender inequality, pain, torture, drama has been with the humanity and with our human experience since the beginning of time, okay? And on one hand, it's very painful to see these things continuing because we do feel that on one level, okay, maybe we might have achieved some sort of more enlightened progress by this time. But on the other hand, it's really important to keep in mind that life is both darkness and light, okay? We are experiencing good things, but also some very difficult things, because as human beings, we learn from both pain and pleasure, okay? So this is what Cancer and Gemini are going to teach us during this Mercury retrograde. Pain and pleasure, the subconscious and the unconscious, the emotional world and the rational world, the ways in which the divine feminine can be empowered and healed through adequate communication, where we check our facts and we genuinely express our hurt, okay? This is the quintessence of this transit. Now, to wrap things up, because I don't want to make this video too long, I know your time is precious, this retrograde is actually going to complete its movement during Cancer season. So when the sun enters Cancer in the last week of this retrogrades, Mercury retrogrades usually take up 3 weeks. This retrograde is going to finish on the 12th of July. And on the 12th of July, on the same date as Mercury begins its movement direct, so it begins to proceed forwards from the sign of Gemini into the sign of Cancer. As the sun is in Cancer, Chiron in Aries is going to go retrograde as well. And Chiron in Aries is all about a wound to your self-expression, a wound to you being yourself, to this primal fire, this energy of, yes, I can confidently fight anything in my life. So please be gentle with yourself, take things very, very slowly. And if things don't work as you want them to work, just take a step back, okay? And maybe you need to pour your energy into something else. It's difficult times, I'm not gonna lie, okay? It's hard to be optimistic, especially since the the South Node at the moment is in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is God consciousness, the law of prosperity, the law of abundance, and the principle of manifestation. So manifestations, if you're trying to manifest more money or love in your life, they could be actually blocked at the moment. Also because Jupiter at the moment is in detriment in the sign that is quite heavy and quite limiting. That is the sign of Saturn. So you can imagine how godlike energy behaves when it meets the point of fear, of ultimate fear, limitations, and effort. So with Jupiter in Capricorn and with the South Node in Sagittarius, collectively we are experiencing kind of a drain on our manifestation abilities. Sorry guys, see, it's like the tiredness is kind of affecting me already, and kind of like, it's difficult to speak, right? Because when the emotional world comes up to the surface, it's kind of hard to interpret it in the logical framework in which we have been accustomed to function so far. But I trust that we have the capacities, that intuitively we're rising up to our extrasensorial abilities, and together, each individually, even if in isolation, but together in the 5D collectively, we can somehow bring about a new reality, a new, I wanted to say world order, but it's not about order. It's about being ourselves. It's about tolerating our diversities. And it's not even about tolerating, because tolerating is almost like placing a sort of emotional detachment between you and the other person. But it's about loving each other in spite of our uniqueness, or maybe, controversially, loving each other because we are so unique. Okay, a collective pull towards emotional maturity through clear communication, through changing our minds, through having and exploring alternative options. This is what this beautiful Mercury retrograde in Cancer and Gemini is going to bring us. Are you going to vibe high or are you going to vibe low? The choice is up to you, my buttercups. I send you all my love and all my light. Bye.